But yeah, so Douglas and I are old friends as of about 20 minutes ago. And I'm Michael, work at Hulu, and lead our brand and content marketing. Douglas.
I'm Douglas, and I'm at RTL AdConnect. We are the international insights and media solutions arm of the RTL Group. And the RTL Group is Europe's largest broadcaster and also owner of Fremantle, which produces such shows as American Idol, X Factor, Got Talent, and shows like these, among other assets. And basically, we help American brands that are entering the help them navigate basically the European landscape, as well as existing brands there, of course, grow their business in the region. So yeah, happy to be here with Michael.
Cool. Yeah. So we were talking before. Hulu's only domestic, but if I'm an American brand coming to Europe for the first time, maybe say Western Europe, what are some of the things that I want to think about, or what are some of the trends going on that you would help advise them on?
Sure. I think so. What's interesting is I think we have to ultimately we always have to find, of course, where the consumer is, and we have to follow those consumer habits. And while we say, of course, that we are not the United States of Europe, so obviously every market is a little bit different. Something to keep in mind is that here we have, of course, a transition from live TV to catch-up platforms and streaming platforms. Of course, they're much further along in terms of their maturity. In Europe, we're actually of course, we are seeing these trends as well. We've seen them for the last decade, but the reality remains that TV, and particularly linear TV, is still quite strong. So I might think about when building a brand to have maybe a TV, and particularly a linear TV-led approach. You're able to do about 70% basically of viewers on a daily basis just with TV alone. So it's quite powerful, and even though this is, of course, again, it's a little bit different in every market, but let's say in the UK, you have, of course, 55% of the TV consumption is still happening on linear TV, and some of the other markets, you find that figure is a little bit closer to 70 or 75%, depending if we're looking at Germany or the southern markets. So yeah, I would say, go market by market. And secondly, I would encourage you to take a look at a TV first approach.
It's like the last thing I would advise a brand coming to America to try to do. But that's super interesting. So like live sports in general, right? In Europe, obviously football's driving a lot of it. In terms of viewership, I assume that is still the place where brands are looking to buy on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So live sports is still the place to be, and particularly because we are seeing also the same trend that we're seeing here in the US, which is the fragmentation of audiences. So this is, of course, happening in the region as well. But sports has this incredible ability to bring together large audiences. So it's a great opportunity for us, of course, as a broadcaster to optimize audiences, but ultimately, I think for marketers to be able to reach those hard to reach audiences. So the live viewers, because it brings them into the mix.
In terms of Olympics, are you seeing that as being something big in terms of viewership in Europe? Because we talk about this all the time. I think if there's one brand that needs a rebrand, it is the Olympics, right? And just with the time difference and all that, right? Viewership has, I think, really suffered in America. But are you seeing the Olympics? Is there a different story in Europe, and are brands really still looking at the Olympics as a place to be?
So yeah, I agree with you. That's in fact also happening in Europe. Keep in mind, of course, that because most of Europe is either exactly 5 to 6 hours, so we're a little bit closer to the time in Beijing, which allows, of course, viewers to consume some of that content live.
So I mean, with the World Cup coming up, right? I think it's going to be a particularly interesting one this year. First time late fall, before the holidays. I assume that's going to be a big one for you, right? That you're looking at.
It's huge. To be honest with you, of course, we're focused here on the NFL, and of course, American football is actually, quite important. I mean, here, but also becoming increasingly important in Europe. Just to give you a sense, in Germany, it's already the second most popular sport behind football. I mean, of course, football, it's going to be very hard to displace football, certainly within my lifetime, I'll say, as far as Europe is concerned. But yeah, it's pretty big. We think it's a unique opportunity because for the first time, we're having it right smack in the middle of the holiday season. So it has the power to drive awareness, but also the drive to purchase for brands. So we're really, really excited about this. You talk about live sports, it's huge. Just to give you a sense, during the last World Cup, just in the UK, we reached about 80% of the European population, so some 48 million or so folks in the UK, and we have, of course, sort of similar reaches happening, across Western Europe. So yeah, it's good. We're excited, and I think marketers there are also excited, and hope you're excited too.
Yeah, the new timing of it should be super interesting for sure. In terms of some of the new technologies out there, obviously you're still seeing, at least in a lot of European markets, a bulk of the buying being on TV. Are there any new technologies or anything even with some TV media that you're seeing that is really popping right now?
Yeah, so of course we're seeing, CTV becoming, quite important. What's also interesting is also specifically addressable television becoming quite big. So we now have the ability to target advertising, tailor-made advertising in a linear feed, and in some markets we now have the ability to have dynamic ad insertion. So this is pretty exciting. For example, in France or in Belgium, we're able to do this, and we're looking to do this, of course, in other markets in the future. So we believe that is going to, it's already the present and will be the future. So ATV in terms of that.
Cool. Any brands who you're working with or not working with that you really admire and that you think are doing all this right?
We've talked a lot about social media platforms. And obviously, one of the ones that we talked a lot about today is TikTok. And TikTok, you would think, is sort of the last brand to think about doing any kind of in-your advertising. But in fact, they have. They have because they know that's also where people are, and it's also a great opportunity to be to sponsor events that are culturally relevant for people. Yeah, this is something that they were last year. They did some interesting things.
Euros, they did some really interesting.
Exactly. Yep. Around the Euros in football. So yeah, we think we love to see that. I think that they're really right, really on the pulse and the cutting edge. I think of the feeling of the zeitgeist. So.
That sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting to see their venture into TV, but it's a really great example.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting. Now you're beginning to see, of course, the marriage of social and commerce. So this is interesting. I think for us, it's also, aside of just use as a brand marketing tool. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. How do we also about the commerce piece of it? So
yeah, super interesting. Cool. Would love to open it up to any questions whatsoever. Again, I know it's towards the end of the day.
We want to make it short and sweet.
How do you think about that? When you want live sports to pay $60 a month, reaching a younger demographic at scale.
I mean, if someone can figure it out, I'd love. No, I'm kidding. Look, I think it's a really interesting market right now. I think the best thing that's going on right now is that it's easier to watch sports than it ever has been, and it's more consumer friendly than it's ever been. And I think, look, if you look at the recent NFL renegotiations as well, and the fact that you can watch a simulcast on Peacock, right? You can watch on Paramount Plus. It's good for the fan. So I think, look, we do look for a product that we think for certain audiences is really great because of all the things that it offers. But again, I think the fan probably wins in the end. So it's a great question. It's a tough one, but I think again, with where sports is going in terms of that's a good thing.
I'm Davina with Ampersand. The question's for Douglas. In Europe or globally, you talked about addressable advertising growing dramatically. What about like access to TV data, like live linear TV data, so that you can kind of bridge the addressable with streaming? Because isn't the relationship between the distributor and the programmers very different in like places like Europe?
Right, and it also varies exactly market to market. So that's the beauty about addressable TV, right? So we now have, the operating system HbbTV. So this is the platform that is allowing us to capture a lot of that data and be able to obviously create segments. And more importantly, it's also allowing us, ATV, it's allowing us to bridge that difference. So now we can target on a household level, right? So using a household ID. That's what, of course, the connected TV has enabled us to do. So we can actually either hit the folks that haven't heard the message, or retarget those who haven't heard the message on our on linear campaigns. So absolutely, we're very much believe that's I think the best value that we can offer is bridging that bridging those all of those channels. Anyone ready for drinks?
Well, it's definitely drinks time, assuming there's no questions. Are there any questions? All right, seeing no questions, let's give